I used to laugh at those online horror stories. You know the ones. Creepy encounters, mysterious stalkers, dark figures at the edge of the woods. I thought they were just modern campfire tales, nothing more. But I don't laugh anymore. My name is Alex, and this happened last year. I just moved into a small apartment in a quiet part of town. Nothing fancy. 1 bedroom, creaky floors, the faint smell of dust in the walls. But it was mine. After years of roommates and shared houses, finally, I had a space of my own. The first night was quiet. Too quiet, actually. No street noise, no sirens, not even the hum of traffic, just the occasional bark of a dog in the distance. It felt peaceful. But then, around 2 a.m., I woke up. Not because of a noise, but because of a feeling. You know that heavy sensation when you know you're being watched? My curtains were open just a crack, letting in the orange glow of the street lamp. I sat up, squinting toward the window. That's when I saw it. A face. Just for a second. Pale skin, pressed against the glass from the outside, eyes wide and unblinking. I froze. My apartment was on the 2nd floor. No balcony, no ledge, just a sheer drop into the alley below. When I blinked, the face was gone. I told myself I was dreaming, stress from moving maybe, but I couldn't shake the image, those wide, hungry eyes looking right at me. The next night, I made sure the curtains were shut tight. I even left the bathroom light on for comfort, which I hadn't done since I was a kid. Around 3 a.m., I woke again. Same feeling, like ice water running down my spine. I reached for my phone and turned on the flashlight, sweeping it across the room. And that's when I noticed it. The curtains, open. Just a sliver, but enough for something to look through. I told myself I must have left them like that, but I knew I hadn't. I barely slept the rest of the night. By the 3rd day, I was paranoid. I double-checked every lock, shoved furniture in front of the window, even taped the curtains shut. I told myself it was just my imagination, but deep down, I knew someone was there, watching me. And that night, I finally heard him. A faint scratching sound against the glass. Long, slow drags, like fingernails tracing the window pane. I didn't dare move. My phone was on the nightstand, inches away, but I was terrified that if I reached for it, whoever was out there would see me move. The scratching stopped, and then came a whisper. Alex. My name. In a low, drawn-out voice. I stayed awake until dawn, paralyzed in bed, staring at the window. When morning finally came, I ran to the glass and yanked the curtains open. Nothing. Just the empty alley 2 stories down. No ladder, no footprints, nothing. But I knew he was out there, somewhere. And the worst part? He knew my name. After that night, I did what anyone would do. I called the landlord. I asked if anyone else had keys, if maybe a maintenance guy had been around, anything. He sounded annoyed, like I was wasting his time. No one has access but you, he said. And if you're seeing faces outside your 2nd floor window, maybe lay off the late-night horror movies, yeah? I wanted to argue, but I hung up instead. What could I say? That someone was climbing walls like Spider-Man to whisper my name through the glass? Still, I wasn't imagining this. I could feel it. That night, I set up a camera. Not a fancy security system, just my old phone propped on a shelf recording the window. I told myself that if I watched the footage in the morning and saw nothing, I could finally relax. But I didn't relax. Around 4 a.m., I woke up again. My throat was dry, my chest heavy, the same icy feeling of being watched. I refused to look at the window this time. I just lay there, frozen, counting the seconds until dawn. The morning came. I almost didn't want to check the footage, afraid of what I might see. But curiosity won. I hit play. The recording showed my room, dimly lit by the bathroom light. Nothing. Moved for hours. Just the stillness of an empty room. And then, at 3:47 a.m., the curtains shifted, slowly, carefully, like fingers prying them apart. A pale face slid into frame. I dropped the phone. My stomach turned cold, my hands shaking so hard I could barely pick it back up. But I had to know. I rewound it, paused on the face, and that's when I realized something worse. He wasn't outside. He was inside the apartment. The face leaned between the curtains from the inside of my room, staring straight at the camera. Eyes wide, lips curled into a smile. And then, he turned, looked directly at me sleeping in bed. The recording cut to static. I didn't sleep the next night, or the night after. I started crashing on friends' couches, pretending everything was fine, but every time I came home to grab clothes or check the mail, I felt it. That same heavy stare pressing against me one night after 3 days away. I finally forced myself back into the apartment. I told myself it was temporary, just long enough to grab the camera, maybe catch one more recording, then I'd be done. The apartment was silent when I stepped inside, too silent. I kept every light on as I walked to the bedroom. The curtains were closed, taped shut the way I left them. The camera was still on the shelf. I picked it up, opened the gallery. The newest video wasn't of the window. It was of me, sleeping, different nights, different angles, all filmed inches from my bed. My hands went numb. I dropped the phone, its screen shattering against the floor. That's when I heard it. A soft creak from the closet. The closet door was shut, but I could see the sliver of shadow beneath it, the kind of shadow that shifts when someone's weight changes on creaky floorboards. My heart slammed against my ribs. I wanted to run, to bolt out the door and never look back, but my legs refused to move. I forced myself forward, step by step, toward the closet. My hand shook as I reached for the knob. Every instinct screamed at me not to open it. And then, the knob turned on its own. I staggered back, nearly tripping over the bed. The door creaked open, just an inch, just enough for the darkness inside to feel alive. "Alex," the whisper slid out, low and raspy. I grabbed the closest thing I could find, a lamp, and hurled it at the door. The bulb shattered, plunging half the room into shadow. The door creaked wider. I didn't wait. I ran. Out the apartment, down the stairs, into the night air. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I didn't stop until I was blocks away. I called the police from a gas station payphone. I didn't want to go back, but I needed them to see it, to catch whoever was in my home. When the officers arrived, they searched the entire apartment, closet, kitchen, bathroom, every corner. Nothing. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no fingerprints. "Probably just stress," one of them said. "Maybe you've been falling asleep with the TV on, dreaming it." But I knew what I heard, what I saw. I refused to stay there that night. I checked into a cheap motel and tried to convince myself I was safe. The thin walls, the hum of the ice machine outside. It should have been comforting, but the dread followed me, heavy and suffocating. And then I noticed something. The curtains in the motel room, drawn open, just a crack. I shut them tight. But when I turned back to the bed, there was something waiting for me. A folded piece of paper, sitting neatly on the pillow. I hadn't seen it when I entered the room. With trembling fingers, I unfolded it. 4 words, written in neat, careful handwriting. "I like watching you." I stared at the note until the letters blurred. My chest tightened, my hands numb. He'd been here, in the motel room, before me. I stumbled back, checking the door, still locked from the inside. The chain latch was still across. No sign of forced entry. So how had he gotten in? I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the corner of the room, the note clutched in my hand, eyes locked on the door. But nothing happened. No scratching, no whispering. Just silence. In the morning I packed up and left. I couldn't risk staying. I thought about calling the police again, but what would I say? That some ghost of a man had slipped into my locked room to leave me a love note? They'd laugh me out of the station. Instead, I decided to go somewhere, anywhere, that wasn't predictable. Not my apartment, not a motel, not anywhere he could plan for. I crashed at my friend Jamie's place. I didn't tell him the details, just that someone had been bothering me and I needed a place to lay low. Jamie was one of those people who never ask questions. He tossed me a blanket and said, "Couch is yours." For the first time in weeks I slept. No whispers, no scratching, no faces at the window. When I woke up, sunlight spilled across the room. For a second, I thought maybe it was over. Maybe whoever it was had lost track of me. Then I saw it. On the coffee table, a photo, me, sleeping on Jamie's couch. My blood ran cold. I grabbed the photo with shaking hands, written across the bottom, in the same neat handwriting, "You look peaceful here." I stumbled back, nearly dropping it. Jamie came into the room, rubbing his eyes. "What's wrong?" I showed him the photo. He frowned, but instead of shock or fear, he looked guilty. Too guilty. "Jamie," I whispered, "where did this come from?" He didn't answer, just looked at me, eyes darting toward the locked front door. That's when it hit me. The police never found signs of forced entry. The curtains never stayed shut. The photos, the notes. It wasn't some stranger climbing walls or sneaking into motels. It was someone who already had a key. Someone who already had my trust. Jamie, I said again, my voice cracking. "What did you do?" He raised his hands, like he wanted to calm me down. "Alex, listen. You don't understand." "Don't understand what?" "That you've been in my apartment, following me, filming me while I sleep?" His face twisted, like he wanted to deny it but couldn't. "I was making sure you were safe." "Safe?" My stomach turned. "By hiding in my closet? By whispering my name in the middle of the night?" Jamie's voice dropped low, almost pleading. "You don't know what's out there, Alex. I wasn't the only one watching you. That stopped me cold." "What are you talking about?" "There's someone else," he said, eyes darting toward the window. "Someone worse." I tried to scare them off, but a sound cut him off. A faint tap-tap-tap against the glass. We both froze. Slowly I turned. The living room window faced the street. The curtains were drawn, but a shadow loomed just behind them. A tall, narrow silhouette. "See?" Jamie hissed. I wasn't lying. The tapping grew louder, faster. The silhouette pressed closer until the fabric bulged inward, like fingers dragging across it from outside. "Don't open it," Jamie whispered. His face was pale, his eyes wide. For the first time, he looked just as terrified as I felt. The tapping stopped. Silence. Then, a voice, low, muffled through the glass. "Alex." My knees nearly gave out. It was the same whisper I'd heard in my apartment. The same voice that had haunted me for weeks. Jamie backed away, shaking his head. "I tried to protect you. I tried to keep them away, but they won't stop." My throat tightened. "If it's not you, then who is it?" Jamie swallowed hard. "They've been here longer than me." Jamie's words rattled in my skull. "They've been here longer than me." The air felt heavy, like the room itself was holding its breath. I forced my legs to move, creeping toward the window. Jamie hissed at me to stop, but I couldn't. I had to see. With trembling fingers, I yanked the curtains open. Nothing. Just the empty street, bathed in the dull glow of the streetlight. No shadow, no figure, no one. But pressed against the glass, smeared like an oily handprint, was a word written backwards. "Found." Jamie cursed under his breath. "They're toying with us." "You shouldn't have come back here, Alex." I turned on him, my voice breaking. "Why me? What do they want?" Jamie looked at me for a long moment, his jaw tight, his eyes filled with something that wasn't just fear, something like regret, "Because you saw them." I froze. "What?" "That first night in your apartment," he said quietly. "You weren't supposed to notice. Most people don't. They just feel uneasy and go back to sleep. But you looked right at them, and once you see them..." He trailed off, his voice dropping to a whisper. "They don't let you go." The lights flickered. A cold wind rushed through the room, even though the window was still shut tight. I felt it then, more than ever, that weight, that stare, pressing down on me from everywhere and nowhere at once. I backed toward the door, my heart hammering. We can leave. We can get out of town." Jamie shook his head. His face was pale, his hands trembling. "You don't understand. They're not outside, Alex." The lights went out. For a second I was blind. The darkness swallowed everything. And then, I felt hot breath against my ear. "Closer than you think," I screamed, fumbling for the door. But the sound that came out wasn't mine. It was echoed. Two voices, mine and something else, overlapping perfectly. The last thing I remember before everything went black was Jamie shouting my name. When I woke up, it was morning. I was lying on my apartment floor. The curtains were wide open, sunlight spilling in. My phone buzzed beside me with a new notification. A video, no sender, no number, just one clip. It was me, sleeping on the floor, and behind me, crouched in the corner of the frame, something pale and grinning, watching, always watching.